Tonight, we begin where the Nile meets a small landing after the busiest trading hour has already passed. The steps are damp and the boats are tied. One oil lamp holds its place above the waterline. Because it is the only warm light nearby, the river seems larger around it, not smaller. Black water accepts the reflection without hurry. Reed hulls rest against stone with only the faintest sound. The air carries mud, rope, wet wood, and the sweetness of plants broken earlier in the day. Nothing here asks to be explained quickly. The first comfort of river night is that movement remains, but it slows enough to become readable. A small wave reaches the lower step, then gives the stone back to darkness. A rope shifts just enough to remind us that the boat is floating, not sleeping. The lamp bends once in the soft wind and then finds itself again. These are not traumatic events. Taken together, they quiet the mind, because every change is modest and every surface seems willing to remain where it belongs. Ancient Egypt often arrives in memory through monuments and daylight. The river at night offers another truth. It reveals continuity through work already set down. A jar left near the landing, a mooring post darkened by many hands, a bundle covered against damp. The listener does not need spectacle to enter this world. Slow water, one lamp, and the feeling that labor has withdrawn without vanishing are enough to begin. Along the papyrus bank, the Nile changes its voice. The landing had edges, an object shaped by many hands. Here the darkness belongs more to stems, mud, insects, and water slipping past roots that never hurry and never fully stop. Moonlight does not reveal the whole bank. It touches the upper reeds and leaves the lower tangle to gather its own shadow. That smaller circle of visibility makes the place feel more truthful. Night on the river should not explain itself all at once. The papyrus stands hold a softness that stone cannot. They shift in narrow intervals and answer the wind without breaking the hour. Somewhere just beyond clear sight, a small skiff waits at the edge of the bank, its shape half given to darkness. It may have been pulled high enough to wait for morning. It may belong to someone sleeping only a few steps away. It is enough that it remains there. The night does not need to prove ownership. It only needs to preserve the relation between water, plant, mud, and breath. What calms the listener here is not emptiness, but patience. The bank continues living without performance. Reeds brush softly. A hidden patch of water reflects a narrow line of sky. A distant practical lamp appears and disappears between stems as the angle changes. The world feels inhabited, but not crowded. It allows the body to rest inside uncertainty without turning uncertainty into fear. A little farther on, the work boats themselves have settled. Their mats are folded. Their goods are covered. Their oars are set where morning will find them quickly and without confusion. This is one of the most convincing forms of nighttime calm. Equipment not abandoned, only paused. The boats do not feel staged. They feel used, known, and left in trust beside the black movement of the Nile. Reed and rope answer moisture in different ways. A basket lid darkens near its rim. A post shows the shine of repeated contact. A woven canopy keeps a trace of warmth below it while the river air cools everything exposed. The lamp nearest the boats does not spread widely. It protects one section of deck, one knot, one folded cloth, and then gives way again to shadow. That restraint lets the scene breathe without becoming decorative. Night here is not the absence of labor. It is labor released from urgency. No one is rowing. No one is calling. No net is thrown. Yet work remains present through order. Covered goods still need mourning. Oars still belong to hands that will rise. The listener is invited to feel this held usefulness as part of the river's calm, a quiet promise that life continues without demanding attention from every moment. Near a ferry shelter, the architecture of waiting becomes easier to notice because there is no queue left to fill it. A bench remains against a post. A jar rests near the threshold. The plank that receives travelers is still, though the water beside it is not. That difference between still structure and moving river gives the night its balance. One thing yields, another holds. Together, they make a quiet that feels complete rather than empty. By daylight, travel can blur into intention. At night, especially at a place no longer in use for the hour, smaller signs become legible again. The worn edge of a bench, dampness along a post, a basket shape in shadow, the slight angle of a plank that has carried many feet before settling into darkness. The lamp at the shelter is modest, and because it is modest, it tells the truth. It lights what must still be found, and leaves the rest to memory. The mind rests more easily in a space that has already finished its busiest task. That is what the ferry shelter offers. It does not ask where we are going. It only keeps the shape of arrival and departure in a gentle form. The river waits beside it. The boards wait above it. The listener is allowed to wait too, without needing the next motion to begin. At the granary wall, the Nile night becomes heavier and more settled. Storage changes the emotional weight of a place. Grain behind mud brick, jars sealed against damp, baskets kept off the ground, and a doorway watched by one small lamp all suggest continuity on a larger scale. Food has already been carried, counted, poured, and tied away. What remains is not bustle, but confidence. The wall seems to carry that confidence in its thickness. Here, usefulness takes a quieter form than it did at the landing or the boats. The river is still nearby, cooling the air outside, but the grain behind these walls belongs to tomorrow and to the mornings after that. A sealed jar, a lid leaned carefully in shadow, a mark pressed into clay. These details keep the world believable. They remind us that civilization rests not only on movement, but on careful keeping. Even this scene does not need severity. The lamp at the threshold is warm enough to hold the nearest surfaces gently. The wall returns that warmth only in fragments. The rest remains dark, composed, and patient. The listener is not asked to admire abundance, only to notice the calm of things already protected. From the granary wall, the night moves inward to a shared courtyard near the river. A well stands at its center. Damp stone gathers a little coolness. One last bucket has been left where morning will find it without confusion. The world feels domestic here, patient and tender, as if ordinary use has withdrawn only a little way from sight. The well curb, the basin, the low stool, and the soft fall of a door cloth are enough to hold the scene together. A warm, practical light near a doorway touches what must be seen. Moonlight settles more lightly above it. Nothing in the courtyard feels urgent. It simply keeps the memory of hands, water, and repeated daily care. Nearby, a small weaver's room rests after work. Linen and reed fiber remain in order. Folded cloth holds its shape in the low light, and the loom parts have been left as if the room expects a quiet return rather than a beginning from nothing. The calm here comes from arrangement, not from emptiness. A loom beam, a spindle, a reed basket, and a cloth bundle carry the afterimage of handwork without asking to be animated again. The lamp on a side shelf gives only a soft reflected warmth. It does not wake the room. It only keeps the materials legible enough for the listener to feel that craft is resting, not gone. The night grows warmer in a small bread court. A courtyard oven keeps a modest heat alive, enough to hold the hour together without brightening it too much. This is not the warmth of activity. It is the warmth that remains after work has already slowed, when the body can still sense bread, stone, and stored heat without being called back into labor. The oven mouth, a board, flat loaves beneath a cloth cover, and a nearby water jar give the scene its weight. The warmth is communal, but quiet. It steadies the night rather than interrupting it. What remains is grounded and reassuring, as if the river world is being kept together by small, familiar forms of care. At the edge of the river, a small shrine remains present through simple traces. An offering bowl waits in shadow. A little ash still marks where fire has already spoken. One careful flame holds itself in the niche, no larger than it needs to be. Devotion here is not spectacle. It is residue, continuity, and inward quiet. The water beyond the shrine stays dark. The niche stone holds only a small circle of warmth. That contrast keeps the scene solemn without making it severe. The listener is not asked to witness ceremony, only to rest beside the evidence that reverence can continue in stillness, with almost nothing moving but the flame. Farther on, a small writing alcove near the water has been left in careful order. Papyrus rolls rest where they were set down, while reed pens wait beside an ink cup and weighted corners keep the surface calm. A lamp has been lowered for the night, not extinguished in haste, but quieted into its smallest useful task. This scene links the river to record and memory, without becoming grand. The table edge, the weights, the rolls, and the narrow task light suggest attention that has already done its work. What remains is learned and quiet, and the mind does not need to labor over it. It only needs to feel that thought, too, can be left in order. Farther along the Nile, temple steps meet the water with more stillness than ceremony. Stone descends into darkness, while a column base keeps its shape in moonlight. One distant, practical light touches only a narrow part of the scene, leaving most of the sacred edge to cool shadow and patient water. The calm here is open and reverent, but not intensified. The steps do not ask for all. They ask only to be noticed as part of the same night that held the boats, the shelter, and the rooms behind us. Sacred architecture belongs to the river world too, and in moonlight, it becomes another place where stillness can gather. Beyond the stone, the palm grove lets movement return in its gentlest form. Palm shadows sway, and fronds answer the wind slowly, while the river keeps its dark movement nearby, steady enough that the grove does not feel separate from it. Here the night drifts, rather than settles, though it does so without losing calm. Palm trunks, a sand path, a reed fence, and a small glint on the water are enough to hold the scene. A distant lampline remains remote and modest. Nothing tries to take control of the hour. The main action belongs to air, leaf, and shadow, which is another way of saying that the world continues without needing to hurry. The river's working materials appear again at a quieter edge. Nets hang to dry in darkness. Rack poles hold their lines. A low hut keeps one small lamp. The smell of river work remains familiar, but the labor itself is absent. That absence feels earned, not empty. Float weights, a basket, the hut wall, and the hanging nets all suggest usefulness held in suspension. Nothing is being cast, tied, or hauled. The scene asks the narrator for practical calm rather than emphasis. What remains is earthy and steady, as if work itself has agreed to lower its voice before dawn. Along a side path near the irrigation edge, the world becomes quieter still. This is a place where cattle and handlers usually pass, yet now only hoof marks remain. Reed bundles rest where they were set down. Mud cools along the path. A small ditch holds the shape of water without needing to reflect much light. The path feels empty in a believable way. A distant door light and the cool edge of the sky are enough to keep the space readable. There is no loneliness in it, only the calm of traces left behind. The listener is allowed to notice how much of a lived world can remain present, even when no one is crossing it. Before dawn, the river widens again. The near bank and the far bank begin to separate under a softer blue, though the night has not fully given way. Far lights remain in place, a reed skiff sits quietly, and a low mist line gathers near the water, so the whole view grows more spacious without becoming brighter in spirit. This is the reflective edge of the episode. The Nile is preparing to receive morning, yet it keeps the patience that has carried the whole night. The scene does not ask for revelation. It asks for breadth, distance, and a gentle release of darkness into shape. From that wider water, attention returns to one useful human preparation. A small provisioning boat near the steps is made ready without noise. Bread baskets and jars have their places, oars wait close at hand, and a cloth rests over what should remain protected. The order is so modest that it feels almost as if the river prepared the boat by itself. The mood here is purposeful, though it stays quiet. Dawn is approaching, yet the scene does not become active in a hurried way. It only suggests that use will soon begin again. The listener remains inside preparation rather than motion, which keeps the continuity of the night intact. At the horizon, the distant temple forms grow clearer. Pylons begin to separate from the line of sky, a little smoke rises faintly, and the water takes on a softer shimmer. Still, the mood remains low and restful. First light does not break the spell. It only changes the temperature of what has been waiting there all night. This scene allows the world to lift without waking abruptly. The valley feels larger now, but not louder. The listener can feel morning approaching as a gradual clarification, not as a command to return to effort. At last, the river landing receives the first useful light without losing the calm that carried the whole night. The steps are pale now. The row post is easier to see. A boat edge catches the new brightness gently. An open sky begins to replace the deeper dark, though nothing rushes to fill the change. This ending should feel continuous rather than climactic. Morning arrives, yet it does so without urgency. The Nile hands its calm forward. Work will return, and light will spread, but for this last moment, the world remains complete, restful, and still willing to move at the pace that let us follow it through the night.